Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, early life. Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, was born in 570 CE in Mecca, a city in the western part of the Arabian Peninsula, now part of modern-day Saudi Arabia. He belonged to the Quraysh tribe, which was a respected and influential tribe in Mecca. His father, Abdullah, died before his birth, and his mother, Amina, passed away when he was only 6 years old. After his mother's death, Muhammad was placed under the care of his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, who was a respected leader of the Quraysh tribe. Abdul Muttalib cared for him until his own death 2 years later. Following his grandfather's death, Muhammad was under the guardianship of his uncle Abu Talib, who was also a leader of the Quraysh tribe, and supported him throughout his life. Youth and early adulthood of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. During his youth, Muhammad earned a reputation for honesty and reliability. He was known for his truthful and just nature, qualities that earned him the nickname Al-Amin, the trustworthy. At the age of 25, he began working as a merchant for Khadija bint Khuwaylid, a wealthy widow in Mecca. Impressed by his integrity and business skills, Khadija proposed marriage to Muhammad. They married in 595 CE, and their marriage was a strong and supportive partnership. Khadija was a great supporter of Muhammad, particularly in the early years of his prophethood. Together, they had 4 daughters, Zainab, Fatima, Ruqayya, and Kulthum, and 2 sons, Qasim and Abdullah, both of whom died in infancy. The prophethood begins of Prophet Muhammad. At the age of 40, Muhammad began to spend time in contemplation and meditation in the cave of Hira on Mount Jabal al-Nur, located just outside Mecca. During one of these periods of meditation in 610 CE, he received the first revelation from the angel Gabriel. This moment marked the beginning of his role as the final prophet in Islam. The revelations continued for approximately 23 years and were later compiled into the Quran, the holy book of Islam. The core message of Muhammad's prophethood was the belief in one God, Allah, and the rejection of polytheism. He also preached social justice, compassion, and ethical behavior. Muhammad's message was met with hostility by the Quraysh leaders, who saw it as a threat to their power and the traditional polytheistic practices in Mecca. As a result, his early followers faced severe persecution. The Hijra, migration, to Medina, in 622 CE, the situation in Mecca became increasingly hostile, and Muhammad and his followers faced growing threats. In response, he and his followers undertook a pivotal migration to Medina, then known as Yathrib, an event known as the Hijra. This migration marked the beginning of the Islamic calendar. Medina welcomed Muhammad and the early Muslims, and he quickly became a central figure in the city. He established a constitution known as the Constitution of Medina, which sought to create a harmonious society by defining the rights and duties of all citizens, including Muslims, Jews, and other tribes, establishing the Muslim community. In Medina, Muhammad not only assumed the role of a spiritual leader, but also took on political and social responsibilities. He worked to establish a cohesive and just community based on Islamic principles. The Muslim community faced several challenges, including conflicts with the Quraysh of Mecca, who were opposed to the new religion. Muhammad led several military campaigns to defend the Muslim community, including the Battle of Badr in 624 CE, where the Muslims achieved a significant victory despite being outnumbered. The Battle of Uhud in 625 CE was a setback for the Muslims due to strategic errors and a change in tactics by the Meccan forces. However, the Muslim community remained resilient. The Treaty of Hudaybiyah, signed in 628 CE, was a peace agreement between the Muslims and the Quraysh that, despite seeming unfavorable to the Muslims, allowed for a period of peace and facilitated the spread of Islam. The conquest of Mecca. In 630 CE, after the Quraysh violated the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, Muhammad gathered a large army and marched towards Mecca. The conquest of Mecca was achieved with minimal conflict, and the city surrendered peacefully. Muhammad entered Mecca and cleansed the Kaaba of its idols, reaffirming its status as the central place of worship for Muslims. His return to Mecca was marked by a significant increase in the number of followers and the consolidation of Islam in the region. Farewell pilgrimage and final years. In 632 CE, Muhammad performed the farewell pilgrimage, which was a significant event in the Islamic tradition. During this pilgrimage, he delivered his farewell sermon, which emphasized the core principles of Islam, including equality, justice, and the sanctity of human life. His sermon also addressed the rights and duties of Muslims and stressed the importance of following the Quran and his example. Following the pilgrimage, Muhammad returned to Medina and continued to lead and guide the Muslim community. Shortly thereafter, he fell ill and his condition worsened over time. On June 8, 632, CE, Muhammad passed away in Medina. He was buried in the chamber of his wife Aisha, which is now part of the Prophet's mosque in Medina. Legacy of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Prophet Muhammad's life and teachings had a profound impact on the world. His role as the final prophet in Islam and his guidance in both spiritual and temporal matters shaped the early Muslim community and established the foundations of the Islamic faith. His teachings, compiled in the Quran and the Hadith, sayings and actions of the Prophet, continue to guide millions of Muslims around the world. Muhammad's emphasis on monotheism, social justice, and ethical conduct remains central to the practice of Islam and has influenced many aspects of global history and culture.